Welcome to today's video, where we'll break down everything you need to know about the nervous system for the MCAT. While this topic can seem overwhelming at first, with the right strategies, it becomes much more manageable. The nervous system is essential for communication within the body, integrating signals between the brain, spinal cord, and peripheral organs. So let's get started and learn how to study this complex system effectively. First, we need to cover the basic building blocks of the nervous system: neurons and glial cells. Neurons are the specialized cells that transmit signals, while glial cells provide structural and functional support to help neurons work efficiently. As you study neurons, make sure you can visualize how signals move from the cell body down the axon and to the synapse. Key to this process is understanding action potentials and how they propagate electrochemical signals. Now, let's dive into one of the most critical topics: the action potential. The resting membrane potential of a neuron is around 70 mV, maintained by the Na+, K+, ATPase pump, and potassium leak channels. During an action potential, the membrane potential changes through depolarization, repolarization, and hyperpolarization phases. To fully grasp how neurons transmit signals, practice drawing this graph and labeling where sodium, Na+, and potassium, K+, ions are moving across the membrane. This will help you visualize how the electrochemical gradients work to generate action potentials. Next up is synaptic transmission, how neurons communicate with each other or with target organs. There are two types of synapses: electrical and chemical. Electrical synapses are faster and occur via gap junctions, but they're relatively rare in the nervous system. Chemical synapses, on the other hand, involve neurotransmitters like acetylcholine or GABA and are far more common. Focus on how neurotransmitters bind to receptors and trigger depolarization or hyperpolarization in the postsynaptic membrane. Let's shift gears and talk about the central nervous system, CNS, which includes the brain and spinal cord. For the MCAT, it's essential to break down the brain's anatomy and understand the functions of its different regions. Each brain lobe has specific functions. The frontal lobe controls voluntary movement and problem solving. The parietal lobe handles sensory processing. The temporal lobe manages hearing and memory, and the occipital lobe is dedicated to vision. You should also understand how the brainstem, made up of the medulla, pons, and midbrain, controls basic life functions like breathing and heart rate. Now let's discuss the peripheral nervous system, PNS, which connects the CNS to the rest of the body. The PNS is divided into two main systems: the somatic and autonomic divisions. The somatic system controls voluntary movements like lifting your arm, while the autonomic system manages involuntary processes such as digestion and heart rate. Within the autonomic system, you have two critical subdivisions: the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems. These are heavily tested on the MCAT, so it's important to know how they function. Here's a great mnemonic to remember the parasympathetic system: para long pre. This reminds you that parasympathetic pre-ganglionic neurons are longer. Knowing the distinctions between these systems, such as how the sympathetic system increases heart rate and the parasympathetic system slows it down, will help you answer MCAT questions effectively. When studying the nervous system for the MCAT, focus on high-yield topics like action potentials, synaptic transmission, and the autonomic nervous system. Use active recall strategies, such as flashcards, to quiz yourself on these core concepts. Practice drawing diagrams to reinforce key processes, such as the phases of an action potential or the pathways of autonomic signaling. Visual aids are your best friend when studying these complex processes. As you prepare for the MCAT, tackle passage-based questions that involve scenarios related to the nervous system. These passages might cover topics like neurotransmitter function, neural reflexes, or the effects of drugs on synaptic transmission. Also, don't forget to practice discrete questions that focus on specific knowledge, such as which neurotransmitter is most commonly associated with the parasympathetic nervous system? Answer: acetylcholine. Being able to quickly recall these facts is critical on test day. The key to mastering the nervous system for the MCAT is to approach it systematically, break down each concept, use visual aids to reinforce your understanding, and continually review high-yield topics. By combining these strategies with passage practice and flashcards, you'll be well prepared to tackle this essential section of the MCAT. Make sure to like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe for more MCAT tips, and download our King of the Curve app for personalized practice questions on the nervous system and more. You can also visit us at kingofthecurve.org for additional resources.